Welcome back to Golden Rule Radio, your weekly recap of the precious metals markets. We're sitting here laughing on an off-mic joke, but that's all right. I'm not going to start over. The markets that are closely associated with the metals, and Miles and Rob, right after you guys recorded last week, I don't know what you said, but man, you drove it down.
We did.
It fell off a cliff.
It did, and it came right back.
That might be the strongest start of the year for you there, Tori, where we are just going to go with it. Yeah, like you said, Rob, you're welcome, America. We love driving the price of gold down. That's how much power Rob and I have over the gold market.
Looking for a little dip and an entry point, are you?
Yeah, yep. But definitely had to bounce back up.
Yeah, next time give us a little more time, will you? So we can actually buy.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
I'll see what
Thanks,
I can
guys.
do.
All right.
No worries. Well, all that gold we've been talking about coming out of the COMEX, that's been going right into Rob's basement. So we'll give you guys the heads up next time.
I tell you what, though, it has really motivated some of my bigger clients. I have one client alone that's bringing back 3,000 ounces plus of gold. Just like, hey, I don't know what's happening, and I don't know if this is the right move, but I don't know what the future holds. And I'm like, well, you're joined in with a lot of very big players because they are doing it.
Yeah, and the assumption is that they know something that we don't talk about on this show potentially. So who knows?
Well, it's not like they're going to pick up the phone and say, hey, Robbie Mack, here's why we're bringing all the gold back to the U.S. Okay, thank you so much.
That's right. I'll take it in my basement.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and I'm sure LBMA will take that shipment if you need to offload it somewhere, Rob, because I hear they're a little short these days.
Yeah.
Well, let's actually dive into the show like we're supposed to. I know our producer's probably shaking his head right now. Let's start off with gold. What has gold done since Rob and I recorded last week? Well, technically, if you just look Wednesday to Wednesday, it hasn't done much. No. You know, it's up a couple bucks, but not a big deal. And, in the middle there, all the way down to 28.32 at one point, back up to around 29.15. So gold actually finishing our recording week up a few dollars, but you're not wrong, guys. We did have a little bit of a drop there right at the beginning of the week, although mathematically not as big as it may have felt in that period of time. It's more about the velocity that it happened at. You know, the volatility is way more interesting to me than the number itself. Moving over to silver. Silver, on the other hand, actually pretty strong over the last week. You know, we did have a little bottoming in silver, but it happened quicker than gold. I think it happened on Thursday or Friday after we recorded. And silver's actually up a little over 3%, almost 3.5%. So silver up to 32.70. Not breaking into any new territory, but looking strong at least over the last couple of days on the bounce. Platinum, a lot like gold, pretty much dead even at around 970, up a few bucks. But it did get as low as around 929, so everything seemed to have put in a bottom, at least a short-term bottom around Monday or Tuesday, and has come back up. And palladium also strong like silver at 3.2% up since our recording last week at $946. So the metals actually, despite a nice solid bounce, silver having a real deep decline, but then coming right back up to where we started, looking pretty healthy on the metal side, guys. Now let's flip that page and take a look at the paper markets with the S&P. Not staggering by any means, but it is down about 2% from our recording last week, currently sitting at 58.38. I'd also put in a low on Tuesday and has bounced back up slightly since then. But at this time, still looking weak. We'll have to see how far that bounce goes. And oh boy, the US dollar down over 2% in a week. And if I'm not mistaken, it had the 3 worst trading days since 2022. Biggest decline in a 3-day period since 2022. Dollar is hurting, down to around 104.3. So still over 100, but that's a pretty significant reaction to what's going on politically, economically right now. So boys, what's going on politically, economically right now?
Tariffs.
Well, tariffs, and Trump's getting his wish.
Yeah, he
right?
wanted a weaker dollar.
He wanted a weaker dollar. He's getting it.
He got it.
He wanted tariffs.
He got it.
He got it, right? He certainly also wants to drive domestic manufacturing, and we'll see if that correlates with the weaker dollar. It helps the exports. And so
He wanted weaker oil.
He wanted weaker oil. He got it, right? Oil's down.
7.5 so far this year, 7.5%.
Yeah, I think that's a chart worth showing, Miles, because OPEC just sort of compounded things there by coming out and saying they're going to increase production. And that's obviously going to drive prices down globally. Not great for domestic production in terms of the prices, but it's good for the end user, better prices at the pump, which Trump wanted. So he's doing things that he said he was going to do. And those numbers, unfortunately, those down days. So I bought last Thursday, the 27th, right on that down day. So I joke, but I didn't ring the bell. Friday the 28th was the day. So I can't pick him any better than anybody else. But it did change, with that being the 28th, it changed our monthly numbers on the metal. So February showed that gold was the only metal that finished in positive territory, up 1.6% just for the month of February. Year to date, it was still up over 8%. Silver was down 1.1, platinum down 4.3, and palladium down 9.3 just in February. So the lone wolf was gold. And we're going to go into a little bit of a macro conversation about that next week because it plays out perfectly with an analyst organization, if you will, that we partner with. And so we'll go into some of that next week. But still really strong numbers. I mean, now that we've had this recovery and rally, gold and silver both back up over 10% still on the year and just in 2025. And so are platinum and palladium, I believe. Palladium was up 0.4% as of the close of the month.
Well, I'm curious too, Miles, with the drop in gold especially, any significant Fibonacci levels that gold touched on at the end of last week?
Yeah, Rob, honestly, not really. I mean, there's an argument to be made that we kind of came close to the very short-term 382 fib on gold. I mean, if you talk about the bottom on gold back on December 19th, but you really got to move your fibs around to make that argument. I try to dial in an entry-level point, and I know Tori always gives me a hard time because I do readjust my fibs a little bit up and down a few bucks, but
not as often as your trend lines.
Yeah. Oh, those trend lines. I can make a chart tell whatever story you wanted to.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why you need to have the context, not just the image.
Well, yeah, and that context is Friday, we're putting a low in gold, and it doesn't have a chance to go to that fib. It was on its way to that 1816, I think, is what somewhere in there you had drawn out. But you've got the dollar decline. You had the White House issue with the Zelensky meeting, and you've got tariffs deadline all kicking in on that day. Gold, from a geopolitical, monetary, economic, and political standpoint, wasn't going to keep going down in that type of an environment. But silver fibs, but go ahead, Miles. Sorry, you've got some lines to show.
Sure, no worries. No, and I think silver fibs is the discussion when we get to that here in a second, because the silver chart's been beautiful here this summer so far. But finishing up gold, the argument would remain short-term with gold that the beatings commence until morale improves. Right? With the weakness of the decline that we saw in gold here over the last couple of days. I mean, from 29.50, 29.60 down to 28.30. Realistically, that's hardly anything. I mean, we go back to last October, we dropped 2 or 3 times that in the course of a month following the election. So these types of ups and downs, I mean, you look at the price of gold going up just since the middle of December, it's just a straight line up. So honestly, I would continue to argue that I'd love to see us bounce downhill for a little bit here. You don't argue the commencement of a bull market until you break above the previous high. So until we're looking at above 29.50 consistently in gold, the argument is we're still in a short-term correction. And maybe we do see some of those fibs in the 27.30s, the 27.80s, where you've got the 618 and the 50% line. But then again, what if gold just goes up $50 and now all of a sudden we're in new territory again? So I don't know. That's why I'm just being consistent with my buying. At this point, the way things are going, I could care less what the price is. I just want to own more of it as often as I can.
Well, there's so much unsettlement out there, geopolitically, talking politics. Zelensky gets booted out of the White House on Friday, and now he's saying, I'm ready to sign on the dotted line today. So the opposition party here in the U.S. make all kinds of noise based on a single event, and then everything changes. These poor guys, but it's a reflection of the economy as a whole. Trump puts in tariffs on Mexico and Canada, because they're not stopping the flow of fentanyl. And now they're talking, well, we can readjust that. And so they keep bobbing and weaving, and the markets are trying to react and trying to get a strategy. The only real strategy straight ahead is what we are seeing in the gold market. That's the strongest bull right now in America. Even the cryptos got slaughtered last week, and they're crawling back, but they've got a ways to go. We're within a day or two of breaking that 29.50 barrier, and we'll see what happens. I mean, bring the popcorn. This is absolutely fascinating. I was talking to a client last week, and he goes, Rob, I can't wait to get home to watch the news. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'll turn on Fox and listen to the second half of Laura Ingraham, and then it goes into Jesse Waters, and I try to stay awake long enough to hear what Sean Hannity has to say. I mean, it is absolutely the most entertaining, from my perspective, for the direction that this country has taken, even as much turmoil and confusion as it causes.
Well, and it's going to be really exciting. If you think about the last 12 months, gold's up 40%. So
Yeah.
to your point, there's nothing better
Yeah.
in the U.S. markets.
Nothing.
Right? It's dwarfing everything. If we just go up another 27%, we're at 4,000. So if underlying fundamentals don't change, geopolitical tensions don't ease, the bond market strength doesn't pause, the dollar decline certainly doesn't stop, which again, we know that that's probably going to continue. It'll continue to decline. All of those things point to higher gold prices.
Well, and it is acting finally as a safe haven,
It is.
as the safest of all havens.
Well, and it's doing that from the top down, too. I mean, we've seen that over the last couple of months.
Yeah.
What's crazy about this gold market is this hasn't been the post-COVID rush into toilet paper and silver American Eagles. That's not what the last couple months have been. This
Not at
isn't
all.
the average retail investor that you and I are. This is top down.
This is steely-eyed missile men. This is the big guys. They are focused and they are relentless.
It really is. It's well thought out big money. Think about the beauty of the fact that it's also corresponding with weak premiums, and somebody can call and buy one gold coin or a tenth of an ounce of gold in this market. Like the retail investor should be jumping in and not be afraid of these prices, while big money is moving 6 and 7 figures in left and right.
And taking delivery.
Yes, and it's just a fascinating phenomenon, which is completely different than 2020 through 2024.
Though those were paper markets, by and large. The retail customer was there. They were driving up premiums, but the big players were primarily in ETFs and COMEX contracts.
That's right.
Not now.
How crazy is it that I can ship a client 100 gold eagles in a week, and the COMEX and LBMA can't ship a single 100-ounce gold bar in 2 months?
They're not as interested in what you have to offer, Miles.
No.
They should call us.
I know, they should. That's exactly right. This is the wake-up call to take advantage of the fact that you can still get it at low premiums. Now, we also know, you guys, we've been doing this long enough. Rob, especially you've ridden cycles like this over and over again.
Not
at
like
some
this.
point,
Though. This is unique.
it is, but it will come down at some point. We
It
don't know
always
how
does.
high it goes.
We don't. But when you have lease rates where they are got to be close to historic highs, deliveries of COMEX contracts in a month like we've never seen before, and a mass exodus of gold out of Zurich and out of London back to the U.S., this is not like anything I have ever seen before.
I totally agree. And do we go to 3,000? Do we go to 4,000? Do we go to, some prognosticators have us at 10 to 12? I've heard 100,000 based on a revaluation and repricing of gold. So
Who knows?
who knows? Maybe, but eventually you end up getting a settling of the waters, geopolitically, politically, economically, monetarily, fiscally. You can get an improvement, and suddenly the interest in gold as a safe haven can pause or wane. But where is it coming down from? So we can talk about these Fibonacci retracement levels in this very short term.
Yeah.
We haven't seen anything yet. We have not put in a top,
No.
not even close. We're not going to be talking in 6 months with gold at under $2,000 an ounce. It's not going to happen. I don't think we're going to see it again in our lifetime.
I don't think so. And every once in a while, I'll have a client say, well, I'll jump back in when it reverses back to 1,800. What do you say to that? I mean, you
say
don't
it was
want
nice knowing you.
Yeah, it's like
Call to say hi sometime.
Rough. That was rough. I don't talk to my clients that way.
I don't either.
I don't either. My clients would never call and say that either, though. Mine are smarter than that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's a lack of education on my part, obviously.
I'm just kidding. That's right. That's right.
Well, that's all I have for today, guys.
That's all I got.
Yeah, I think next week will be fun. So
I can't wait.
yeah, I'm really hoping nothing happens in the market in the next week that we have to cover, because I think kind of a deeper conversation about looking into market trends, I think, is going to be a good conversation.
Yeah, have our listeners bring a pad and a pencil, because we're going to give you some serious intel.
Yeah, and Rob's going to have his popcorn.
Well, I'm going to try to take this intel and take 10 pounds of mud and stuff it into a 2-pound sack. That's going to be my job.
The master. All right.
Well, I've been thinking, Rob, the reason you miss Hannity every night is I think you go to bed about 6 o'clock.
I do. I do. It's so true.
So there you go. All right, boys, fun week. Let's see where the dollar goes from here. I think that's the chart to watch this week. What does the DXY, the dollar index, do? How does it respond? And do we see continued decline? Because, yeah, Tori, I think your estimations on future gold pricing, if we're going to be an extended declining dollar era, I don't know how you look at it as anything else. So it's going to be a fun couple of months here, guys. I'm looking forward to it. That is going to do it this week for Golden Rule Radio. So as always, we appreciate you joining us. If you liked what you heard, hit the YouTube buttons for us. That certainly helps us out. But better yet, why not give us a call? You can always reach us at McIlvaney Precious Metals at 1-800-525-9556. You can find more info on our website at McIlvaney.com. We're on Twitter at ICA Gold and Facebook at McIlvaney Financial. And if you use X instead of Twitter, we're also at ICA Gold there. Thanks for listening and have a great week.